Whoa! Hey guys, what's going on? This is RJ Game News USA here, back today with another game review. And today we're going to go over the review scores for NIOH 3, if I'm saying that right, for the PlayStation 5. And let's jump right into it right as soon as you hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, share, and comment down below, and hit the bell for notifications. Let's get started. So, we're going to start with the perfect scores. GameSpew with a 100 says, with its new open field format, NIOH 3 is undoubtedly the best entry in the series yet, giving players more freedom to explore and making the experience feel more seamless. Add on top of that additional new features such as the ability to switch between samurai and ninja styles. We have another perfect 100 from Consolfi Finn, saying NIOH 3 still struggles with cheap boss fights and clumsy controls. Whoa, time out. I gotta stop you right there. How do you even possibly give a game a 100 and then immediately start your sentence with a flaw? Your review sucks. Moving on. Daily Star with a perfect 100, wrapping up the perfect scores, saying this is an excellent Souls-like title with a unique battle system to mix up the usual formulas. The setting looks immersive and gameplay is addictive despite many a death at the hands of gruesome monsters. And despite the fact that's a perfect score rating there, that review just told me all I needed to know this is not a game for me. I am not a Souls-like player. I'm not the kind of player that likes to die over and over and over and over again until I get good at it. That's just not me. Now, I know there's some people in my audience that are like that, and that is more than fine. And I'm also willing to give Dustbloods a try when that comes to Switch 2, but that's a story for another day. Alright, we have PlayStation Universe giving this PlayStation game a 95, go figure, saying NIOH 3 represents the series at its most refined and confident. Combat is precise, expressive, and endlessly rewarding. While open field design gives the world room to breathe without sacrificing focus, Crucibles deliver punishing, carefully balanced challenges that reward the player. We have another 95 from Game Blast, saying each design decision, whether in narrative pacing or mechanical complexity, converges to strengthen the hardcore experience that has always defined the franchise. It is a work that understands its identity, honors its legacy, and looks ahead. NIOH 3 is not just another chapter. We got Play UA with a 93, saying the third entry into the series retains Neo's recognizable hardcore identity while significantly changing the approach to many aspects of the game, moving away from linear missions in favor of an open world. And we got COG Connected with a 92, saying NIOH 3 is the most ambitious and densely featured entry in the series, with a vast world to explore and extremely satisfying systems and combat to master. It does for the Nioh franchise what Elden Ring did for the Dark Souls world. That is an interesting take right there. Because I would say a lot of people, obviously Souls-like, have the Dark Souls universe and Elden Ring. They're like top dog, right? NIOH 3 could really make their mark on the map, it seems like. Game of the Year contender? Maybe. It is an 86 overall Metacritic. Game 8 with a 92 says if there's a company that knows its way around RPGs, it's Team Ninja. But with NIOH 3, it feels very much like they have finally perfected their vision. This is the culmination of their endless quest to create the ultimate action RPG experience. Alright. We got a 92 from Hobby Consoles, saying, as if possessed by the spirit of Mazume, Team Ninja has forged its finest work within the NIOH saga. A game as satisfying to play as it is deep in its systems. If NIOH 3 were a katana, it would be worthy of the Shogun himself. Video Chums with a 91 says Nioh 3 is a superbly enjoyable culmination of action RPG fun, and its open environments are bursting with so much rewarding content that it's hard to put down whenever you start playing. Games that do that, where you start playing and you just simply cannot put it down, they mean something. Like, they really, really, affect you as a memorable game. I mean, no matter what it is, if that's how the reviewer felt, I'm not surprised with the score. Area Jungas with a 90 says Nioh 3 represents a bold evolution for Team Ninja's Punishing Samurai Saga, where the first two entries excelled in tight mission-based structure and stance mastery. This sequel leaps into larger open fields packed with content, such as side quests and Crucible Trials. So it seems like they're expanding and refining this Nioh universe. Combo Infinito with a 90 says Nioh 3 refines the series by expanding its combat and structure without losing its identity. The ability to switch between samurai and ninja styles adds meaningful depth, changing how encounters are approached and keeping combat consistently engaging, and with open-ended maps. Now it's time for the video sponsor, Plain Black Wallet. Have you ever wondered why YouTubers take sponsor deals? Have you ever wondered what kind of shady shit happens behind the scenes? Well, no need to worry here at RJ Game News USA, where we gladly don't sponsor anybody at all, and we don't take their money because we actually have our own money. Would you imagine that? Pretty crazy, huh? Alright, that's it for this video sponsor. Let's continue the video. We have a 90 from... Quiet in there. Pipe down, please. We have a 90 from Console Creatures, saying Nioh 3 fractures Team Ninja's formula, pushing players to master brutal samurai power and lethal ninja agility in every demanding encounter. We have a 90 from GameKilt, saying you don't change a winning team, as they say, except that you absolutely can replace a winning team with an even stronger one. These 60 hours spent with Nioh 3 have done more than dispel our doubts. 90 from GameLiner says Nioh 3 is a worthy addition to the franchise. The story engages, the world invites exploration, and the combat system constantly challenges you. Technically solid, though the graphics could be sharper, it's a game that both fans and newcomers will enjoy for hours. Hey, Poor Player with a 90 says, gripes around accessibility aside, Team Ninja can comfortably take a bow, having finally achieved the full potential of this wonderful series with Nioh 3. Games Radar Plus with a 90 says, a triumphant evolution of the series for existing fans and the best possible jumping on point for newcomers. And we got Game Surf here with a 90. It's becoming a broken record, right? Saying Nioh 3 represents Team Ninja's full maturity and true evolution of the Souls-like genre with its dual combat styles and open map design. The game successfully lowers the barrier to entry for newcomers without compromising on its signature difficulty. Noisy Pixel with a 90 says Nioh 3 is a bold, rewarding evolution of Team Ninja's action RPG formula, expanding the series into an open field format without losing the tight, satisfying combat it's known for. See, I always like that. Always like when a game can do more, do better, but without losing the essence of what the original games were like. And then we have Loot Level Chill with a 90. Say Nioh 3 moves beautifully with smooth, glowing, brutal combat and a huge array of special abilities to equip and call upon. MMORPG.com with a 90 says Nioh 3 is a triumphant adventure that stands up to the mightiest contemporaries in the Souls-like genre. I think that's accurate. I think it's probably good at what it does as a Souls-like game. Retcon with a 90 says, while my gripes with the series as a whole persist in the third entry, Team Ninja also makes great strides in refining and innovating upon its strong points. Nioh 3 is a confident step forward for Team Ninja and the strongest entry in the series yet. Saudi Gamer. No, we will not read Saudi Gamer. Fuck that. Next, The Gamer with a 90 says Nioh 3 may stumble slightly with its narrative and a bit of bloating from the new open zone design, but it's still far away the best game in the series to date. Consistently excellent combat, well-designed bosses, and a new form that adds even more depth and value. These reviews have been fire, honestly. Honestly, I gotta give it up to the reviewers. Most of these reviews have been good. And good at explaining the game and what it is and why it's good. True Gaming with a 90 says Nioh 3 is just another Souls-like. It is a title that respects the foundation of the genre while building a unique identity upon it. Fair enough. Gaming Trend with a 90. Nioh 3 is an evolution of Team Ninja as a studio. The solid foundation laid by the first two Nioh titles paved the way for aspects of Ninja Gaiden, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, and Rise of the Ronin. I suck at all of those! Moving on. Gaming Bolt with a 90. Nioh 3 doesn't settle for iterative improvements. Instead, it pulls together Team Ninja's best mechanics from the past series, folds in welcome touches from other games, and backs it all up with genuinely strong new additions that feel mechanically sound and consistently good. That is an excellent review. I was talking about that earlier, about adding new elements and not losing the original spirit of the game. Gaming Bolt seemed to hit it right on the head. That's my favorite review so far of how they're describing it. Game Watcher with a 90. Nioh 3 is a blast. It's fast, it's relentless, and tough, and it's a tough thrill ride that maintains a great sense of progression. All right. We got PlayStation Lifestyle with a 90, saying Nioh 3 is the best game yet in the franchise. Seen it, heard it, done that before. Innovin with a 90 says an open field and two distinct battle styles mark Nioh 3's key changes. Man, we got a lot of 90s, guys. This is a lot of 90s. If you're still hanging around, thank you. Gamer.no with a 90 says the developers have handled the transition to an open world with flying colors. I'm shortening these reviews down to maybe a single sentence so we can get through this, guys. Dual Shockers with a 90 says Nioh 3 is an incredible game that expands on the core gameplay of its predecessors. Jux Video with a 90 says Nioh 3 is a masterpiece, a super complete action RPG, more accessible than the previous installments. More accessible. I wonder if it's just a little bit easier, maybe. Somebody like me that sucks at Souls-likes can just jump right in. I don't know. I'll have to consider this game. I really will have to consider it just a little bit. I'm getting a little convinced by reading the reviews. El Damask with a 90 says Nioh 3 delivers arguably one of the finest combat systems in gaming history. It's a sheer masterclass in addictive gameplay that will absolutely captivate Souls-like fans looking for their next high-octane fix. And then we have Digital Chumps with a 90, saying Nioh 3 is a testament to player expression. For the third entry in the series is an extremely busy, competitive genre. Team Ninja has always managed to set themselves apart with Nioh by incorporating open areas to explore and gain confidence and experience in the player. Game Rant with a 90 says, ultimately, Nioh 3 feels like a confident step forward for the series, expanding player freedom through its ninja style. GameSpot, who I think is traditionally a pretty harsh grader, gave this game a 90, saying, from quality of life enhancements like this to excellent new additions and refinements to the core systems, Nioh 3 is absolutely superb across the board. It's an evolution of the Nioh formula where every single new idea lands. There might still be a couple issues but they're minor. Gamer Social Club with a 90 says, while Nioh 3 was a very big learning curve with lots of different stats and combos to keep track of, I'm not going to tell you how long some of these bosses took me, but once I had it semi-figured out, it was fantastic fun. Man, I used to really love long boss fights. Now, I just don't have the time for them. GRYonline.pl with a 90 says, the leap that Nioh series has made from game to game bodes well for the future. Nioh 3 can already compete with the best representatives of the Souls-like genre. The exploration itself may not have been the sense of wonder that was present in Elden Ring, and blah blah blah. Moving on. CD Action with a 90. Nioh 3 brings the formula developed by its predecessors to near perfection. And finally, we are finally through the 90s, guys. Can you believe it? 88 by Games.ch. Nioh 3 is the best installment of the series so far. The dual character system with its two completely different fighting styles, Samurai and Ninja, makes for a thrilling and varied action. The sheer number of spectacular bosses adds to the appeal. Alright, so it's time for the next video sponsor here, which is my remote control. And I know many of you now probably are using your remote control if you're watching on television to go ahead and turn away from my video now, because sponsorships suck, and stopping a video to do a sponsorship is loserish behavior. Anyway, thank you for watching our sponsor. Let's continue with the video. EveryEye.it with an 87 says, despite the refined combat system, updated graphics engine, slightly more interesting plot, and the inclusion of open field gameplay, Nioh 3 hasn't become a completely different experience from its predecessors, choosing to embark on a journey. Okay. We have an 86 from Impulse Gamer saying, Nioh 3 is a game that took me a while to get into. I wasn't feeling the first hour or two, and I initially couldn't get to grips with the burst break mechanic. At some point, though, it clicked, and I got into the groove. The world opened up, and the game was transformed from that. Critical Hits with an 85 saying Nioh 3 is the best Souls-like made by Team Ninja so far. Hey, simple review, simple take. Ironically, Impulse Gamer, though, they nailed it right on the head. They had an 86, and the overall Metacritic is an 86 from them. Critical Hits is an 85. But yeah, Impulse Gamer is the closest review you're going to get to the overall Metacritic score there, hitting it right on the nail on the head. PSX Brazil with an 85 says Nioh 3 evolves the series formula with semi-open world maps and an even deeper and more dynamic combat system, maintaining challenging and highly satisfying encounters. Despite stumbles in the narrative, enemy repetition, and visual aspects, the gameplay retains a great level of quality. GamePro Germany with an 83 says even faster, more versatile, and more fun than its predecessors, but Team Ninja still needs to improve performance for Nioh 3 on PS5. What, frame rate issues? They didn't really say. Gamers RD with an 83 says Nioh 3 refines its formula with a dual combat style system, Samurai and Ninja, that adds a new strategic layer while improving upon established mechanics. Now, we're going to go ahead and read this next review by RPG Fan that gave it an 81. We're going to read it very robotically for you all. Nioh 3 may not be the peak of the series, but it remains a strong title that understands what makes Nioh special. For fans, it's an experience worth diving into. For newcomers, it's a deeply rewarding introduction. And for me, it's another reminder of why the series still stands the test of time. Alright, enough being silly. Final Weapon with an 80. Nioh 3 offers some of the best action and boss fights in the series. However, it is held back by some open-world pitfalls that make the experience feel a bit bloated. Oh, bloated, huh? Sorry, that had to be like a fucking 100 on the cringe meter. Slant Magazine with an 80. If Neo 3's first steps are more awkward than its predecessors, then the strange, dense, quasi-open world action RPG it blossoms into is more compelling than the game's compact, naughty levels. Screen Rant, gotta love him, with an 80, says while the open world of Neo 3 isn't as fully fleshed out as many other current games, the strong foundation of the Neo series is still fully intact. Shaq News with an 80. Between a vast open world and new combat styles, Neo 3 is the series' most ambitious title yet. VGC with an 80. Neo 3 feels like the summation of Team Ninja's efforts from the last decade to combat. It's varied and tight, much like the level design, and it's a fantastic adventure. We got Push Square with an 80, saying Neo 3 takes all the best bits from Team Ninja's previous efforts to form its greatest action experience in a very long time. Its new open world maps provide more ways than ever to engage with its sublime, intense combat system. Okay, we got Eurogamer with an 80. Innovation is the key to success for Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo. By the way, I'm going to stop that review right there. Number one, I hate Eurogamer to begin with. Number two, they spelt the word key wrong. Can you believe that shit? Mara Station with an 80 says Neo 3 is a fantastic game thanks to its glorious combat system and well-designed open world. Spazio Games with an 80 says Neo 3 is a game that breeds ambition, a title that dares and isn't afraid to throw the player into chaos. It's frantic. It's brilliant. It has its moments. It's incredibly rewarding. MGG with an 80 says Neo 3 adds its own contribution to the series with gameplay that is richer and more demanding than ever, and formidable bosses that require players to make good use of the mechanics available to them. Radio Times with an 80, saying for me, Neo 3 represents a series that is matured, honoring its edges and expanding into true modern RPG experience. Some may disagree, but for me, Neo 3 is the series at its blood-soaked peak. That peak being 80, apparently, for them. Hardcore Gamer with an 80. Neo 3's gameplay still excels, but there are some noticeable issues. Ninja style is a fantastic, fun way to play the game and build characters around, but the Team Ninja double legacy... I'm fumbling my words. Next. IGN Italia, IGN Spain, they all gave it an 80. Eurogamer Portugal, these are like repeat websites there. RPG Site with an 80 says the first Neo marked a great debut for a long dormant project that had been considered vaporware at one point. But why though? And Culture Greek also gave it an 80. I think you guys get the point. There's plenty of 80s to go around. Multiplayer.it with a 75 says the graphical leap compared to Neo 2 is significant. And we're on to the mixed reviews. That's the juicy bits that you guys fast forward all the way to the end of the video to see anyway. Well, I hate to disappoint you. They're all 70s. They're all 70s. They're all mixed reviews. So let's read them now. Nothing's below a 70 on this game. Comic Book says too much of Neo 3 is similar to past Neo games, while Game Reactor UK says Neo 3 is simply a good game because it's more of Neo and Neo 2, with a few dashes of different playstyles, a few new enemies, bigger environments, and some tiny gameplay tweaks. So they don't seem that excited. Finger Guns, their 70 says, Neo 3 expands the series from tight, bite-sized focus to expansive open-world design over multiple time periods. And while the third Samurai Souls-like still plays incredibly, It's structurally compromised by recycled enemies. Oosh, ash. RPG Gamer 70 says Neo 3 feels weighed down by its own scope. Oh, this speaks to me right here. There's a lot of space and not quite enough content to fill it all adequately. That sums up so many freaking open world games for me. I get so fucking frustrated when I see games that go open world that really shouldn't. I don't know if Neo 3 is like that, but there's so many games where I see there's so much open fucking space with not enough to do in that space. I feel you on that, brother. Checkpoint Gaming says, with their 70, Neo 3 has thrilling combat, character specialization, and spectacle that are tried and true staples for both and a Team Ninja and Neo game in of itself. And finally, Cubed 3 with a 70 says Neo 3 modifies the series formula, producing mixed results. The game features a more varied action combat system for fights and challenges. As far as action goes, it still features some of the best mechanics in the genre, even if it's on the easier side. All right. I think that about sums it up, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you. This is RJ signing out. Have a good one. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to play Neo 3.